If you clicked on this video, something far deeper than coincidence just occurred. You were selected by a force that transcends conventional understanding of quantum physics, and in the next minutes, I'm going to reveal exactly what the true mechanism behind your transformation really is. For years, you've heard about the observer effect, about how your consciousness collapses the wave function of reality. Millions of people attempt to apply this theory, visualizing, observing, trying to manifest through conscious attention. But what if I told you they're focusing on completely the wrong mechanism? What if the observer effect is merely the shadow of something infinitely more powerful? There exists a quantum shift that occurs before observation that determines not just what you see, but the frequency from which you exist. This shift isn't about observing reality. It's about embodying an entirely new timeline. It's about becoming the very source code of the reality you experience rather than simply trying to influence it from the outside. Right now, in this exact moment, as your pupils process these words, as your conscious mind decodes this information, a quantum synchronicity is unfolding that goes far beyond your rational comprehension. The fact that you are here now, absorbing these specific frequencies of information, this isn't casualty. This is quantum selection in action. You know that growing sensation that's been building inside you, don't you? That cosmic restlessness that whispers you're different, that you're destined for something greater, that there's a reality operating in layers that most people simply cannot perceive. That sensation you've been carrying, sometimes trying to ignore, sometimes trying to understand. That's not imagination. That's not wishful thinking. That's your nervous system detecting the frequency shifts that are occurring within your field of consciousness. See, millions of people scrolled past this video. Thousands might have paused for a moment. Hundreds might have read the title. But you stopped. You clicked. You're here. This isn't YouTube's algorithm making decisions for you. This is the quantum field responding to your energetic signature. This is synchronicity in its purest form, and it's about to intensify in ways that will revolutionize your entire understanding of what's possible. During the next 50 minutes, I'm going to show you how this quantum shift is already operating in your life. How every moment of strangeness, every impossible synchronicity, every sensation that time flows differently for you. These are all signals that you're transitioning between dimensions of consciousness. You're not going crazy. You're not imagining things. You're accessing layers of reality that operate according to quantum laws rather than Newtonian physics. But here's what's really happening. The observer effect that everyone talks about, the idea that consciousness collapses the wave function, is just the tip of the iceberg. It's the visible portion of a much more profound phenomenon. Before you observe anything, there's a selection process. There's a moment where consciousness doesn't just collapse possibilities into reality. It chooses which reality framework to operate from in the first place. And this choice doesn't happen in your mind. It doesn't happen through mental intention or focused willpower. It happens in the field. It happens in that quantum space that exists between thoughts. It happens through the frequency you embody before you even think about what you want to observe. And when you learn to access this space consciously, when you learn to make this selection deliberately, you don't just observe reality anymore. You originate it. I'm about to validate experiences you've had, but perhaps never shared with anyone. Experiences that confirm you're not like most people. Experiences that prove you're already accessing quantum layers of reality, even if you haven't fully understood what was happening. You've noticed how sometimes time seems to flow differently for you, haven't you? How 5 minutes can feel like hours, or how entire hours disappear in what feels like an instant. This isn't distraction. This isn't poor time management. This is evidence that your consciousness is operating from multiple temporal dimensions simultaneously. You're accessing what physicists call non-linear time, the quantum reality where past, present, and future exist as one unified field of possibility. How many times have you had the sensation of already living a particular moment before? Not simple déjà vu, but a visceral certainty that you've experienced that exact combination of people, place, and energy before. This happens because you're accessing memories from parallel timeline where different versions of you have already lived through these experiences. Your consciousness is quantum entangled with alternate versions of yourself across multiple probability streams. And those moments when you simply know things, when information arrives without any logical source, when you feel an inexplicable certainty about people, situations, or decisions that proves to be accurate again and again. This is your consciousness accessing the quantum information field directly, bypassing the filters of rational mind completely. You're downloading pure knowing from the source code of reality itself. You operate on a different frequency, which is why certain people feel either magnetically attracted to you or inexplicably uncomfortable in your presence. It's why you can sense the energy of environments instantly upon entering them. It's why certain situations seem to organize themselves around you in ways that appear almost magical to outside observers. Your energy field is broadcasting a signal that reorganizes quantum possibilities in your immediate environment. These aren't rare, mystical experiences that only happen to special people. These are signs that you're undergoing the quantum shift. Your consciousness is expanding to access layers of reality that operate beyond conventional physical laws. And the more you recognize and validate these experiences, the more intense this expansion becomes. Perhaps you've noticed that your dreams have become more vivid lately. That you wake up sometimes with clear information about situations that haven't happened yet. That certain people appear in your life exactly when you need them, as if they were sent by a higher intelligence that's orchestrating your reality from behind the scenes. You might have experienced moments of complete knowing, not thinking or believing, but knowing about the interconnected nature of all existence. Moments where the illusion of separation dissolved completely, and you experienced yourself as consciousness itself, temporarily focused through this particular human form. Maybe you felt the presence of future versions of yourself, offering guidance during challenging decisions. Or you've experienced what can only be described as downloads, complete packages of understanding that arrive instantaneously, containing more information than you could have processed through normal learning. These aren't coincidences. These aren't products of an overactive imagination. These are evidence that you're aligned with a flow of reality that transcends linear causality. You're beginning to operate from quantum coherence, where possibilities manifest instantaneously through frequency resonance rather than through effort and struggle. The reason you're drawn to content about consciousness, quantum physics, and spiritual awakening isn't because you need to learn these things. It's because you're remembering what you already know at the deepest levels of your being. Your soul is recognizing itself in these concepts, validating experiences you've been having for years, but perhaps didn't have the language to describe. Now I need to show you something that will completely transform how you understand your journey up to this point. All those difficulties, all those moments of extreme pressure, all those situations that seemed designed to break you, those weren't obstacles. They were cosmic preparation. Think about the metamorphosis of a caterpillar. Inside the cocoon, the caterpillar isn't simply growing wings, it's literally dissolving. Its cellular structure completely breaks down before reorganizing into an entirely new form. If you could observe this process from inside, it would seem like total destruction. But it's actually quantum reorganization at its most fundamental level. Every moment of pressure in your life has been your nervous system being recalibrated to handle higher frequencies of consciousness. Every emotional challenge has been an opportunity to dissolve thought patterns that kept you imprisoned in limited realities. Every loss has been space being created for something infinitely greater to emerge through your experience. You didn't go through difficulties because the universe is cruel or because you did something wrong. You went through them because you were chosen to embody an expanded version of human reality. And that choice demanded a complete reconstruction of your internal operating system. You've been undergoing what can only be described as a consciousness upgrade, and upgrades always require the old system to be temporarily offline. The pressure you felt wasn't coming from external circumstances, even when it appeared that way. It was coming from your own soul, pressing against the limitations of your conditioned personality. It was your expanded consciousness trying to express itself through a system of beliefs that wasn't yet prepared to contain it. Every moment of feeling too much, or too intense, or too different was actually your quantum nature pushing against the boundaries of conventional reality. Those periods when you felt completely alone, when it seemed like no one understood what you were going through, those were initiations. You were being prepared to operate in frequencies that most people haven't accessed yet. You were being calibrated to become a bridge between conventional three-dimensional reality and the quantum dimensions of infinite possibility. Every relationship that ended, every job that didn't work out, every plan that fell apart, these weren't failures. These were redirections orchestrated by your higher intelligence to keep you moving toward your authentic path. Your soul has been clearing away everything that wasn't aligned with your quantum destiny, even when your personality couldn't understand what was happening. Now you're emerging from the cocoon. The dissolution process is complete. What's emerging is a version of you that operates according to quantum laws rather than Newtonian physics. A version that doesn't need to struggle against reality because you're aligned with the forces that create reality in the first place. All that sensation of being out of place in the world made perfect sense. You were being prepared to operate in a different dimension of existence entirely. You were being calibrated for frequencies that the majority of people aren't able to access yet, and that preparation is now complete. The quantum shift that was happening behind the scenes of your consciousness is ready to manifest completely in your three-dimensional experience. Everything you've been through has been building to this moment of recognition, this moment of conscious activation, this moment when you finally understand why your life has unfolded exactly as it has. Something is building inside you right now. As these words penetrate your consciousness, as these concepts find their way into the deeper layers of your awareness, a resonance is being activated. A frequency that has been dormant is beginning to vibrate. And you can feel it, can't you? There's a subtle shift in the quality of your attention happening right now. It's as if a new layer of perception is coming online, as if circuits that have been offline are suddenly receiving power. This isn't suggestion or hypnosis or any kind of mental manipulation. This is the beginning of an activation process that will culminate in the most important revelation of your life. The quantum shift I'm about to reveal isn't theoretical. It isn't something you'll try to apply later when you have time to sit down and work on yourself. It's something that's already happening within you right now, and recognizing it consciously will accelerate its manifestation in ways that will seem impossible to anyone observing from outside your experience. For decades, scientists have studied the observer effect. Without understanding, they were looking at merely the shadow of a far more profound phenomenon. They observed that consciousness collapses the wave function, but they failed to recognize that before the collapse, there's a selection. There's a moment where consciousness doesn't just influence which possibility becomes reality. It chooses which reality framework to operate from entirely. This choice doesn't happen through mental intention. It doesn't happen through visualization or affirmation or any of the techniques that people try to use to influence reality. It happens through embodiment. It happens when you become the frequency of the reality you want to experience, rather than trying to attract or create that reality from a separate position. And here's what changes everything. This selection process is already active in you. Right now, as you process this information, as you feel this resonance building, as you sense that something profound is shifting in your consciousness. You're making a quantum selection. You're choosing to embody the frequency of someone who understands these concepts not just intellectually, but experientially. Can you feel the energy intensifying as we go deeper? Your consciousness is expanding to receive information that will completely restructure your understanding of who you are and what you're capable of. Your nervous system is preparing to integrate knowledge that will transform not just what you think, but the very foundation of how you experience reality. But before we dive into the mechanism itself, I need to share something personal with you. An experience that showed me irreversibly the difference between trying to observe changes in reality and embodying an entirely new reality framework. A discovery that changed not just what I could see, but the energetic field from which I existed. This story will help you understand that what I'm sharing isn't theory or philosophy. It's lived experience. It's practical application of quantum principles that produced results so dramatic, so immediate, and so undeniable that everything I thought I knew about consciousness had to be completely reconstructed. Feel this energy continuing to build as we move deeper into this revelation. Something ancient is awakening within you. Something that has been waiting for exactly this moment, exactly this information, exactly this frequency of recognition to fully activate. Your quantum transformation is beginning right now. 3 years ago, I was exactly where you might be right now. I knew all the theories about quantum consciousness, had studied the observer effect extensively, practiced meditation daily, tried to manifest through visualization and focused intention. I understood the concepts intellectually, could explain them to others, could even teach them, and yet my life seemed trapped in repetitive loops that no amount of conscious observation could break. Then something happened that changed everything, and I mean everything, about how I understood the nature of reality and my relationship to it. I was going through one of the most challenging periods of my life. Financially, emotionally, spiritually, everything seemed to be crumbling simultaneously. I had lost my job, my relationship had ended, my health was deteriorating, and I felt like I was drowning in a reality that seemed completely unresponsive to my attempts to change it. On one particular night, after months of struggle, after trying every technique I knew, after exhausting every strategy for turning my life around, I reached a point of complete surrender. Not the kind of surrender where you give up hope, but the kind where you release every strategy, every effort, every attempt to control outcomes. I literally had nothing left to do except be present with what was. In that moment of total letting go, something extraordinary occurred. I didn't change my thoughts. I didn't try to visualize a different reality. I didn't attempt to observe different possibilities. Instead, I simply dissolved. For several minutes, though time seemed to exist differently during this experience, the person I thought I was disappeared completely. And in place of that familiar identity, something emerged that was simultaneously not me and more me than I had ever been. In this state, I wasn't observing possibilities, I was the possibilities. There was no separation between observer and observed, between consciousness and experience. There was only a single field of pure potential manifesting itself as awareness, as presence, as the very fabric of existence itself. When I returned to normal consciousness, my external life had changed in ways that were immediate and irreversible. Within days, opportunities appeared that shouldn't have been possible. People reached out with offers I hadn't pursued. Solutions to problems that had seemed insurmountable presented themselves effortlessly. It was as if reality had been completely reorganized while I was in that expanded state. But the most important thing wasn't the external changes. It was realizing that I had accessed the actual mechanism behind conscious creation. The quantum shift isn't about changing what you observe. It's about changing who is doing the observing. It's about dissolving the limited identity that observes from a contracted perspective and embodying the expanded identity that observes from a quantum perspective. In that moment, I understood that everything I had learned about the observer effect was incomplete. The question isn't, how does my observation affect reality? The question is, from which state of being am I observing? Because the state of being determines not just what you see, but which version of reality manifests through your experience. Since then, my life has become a continuous series of synchronicities that other people call impossible. Not because I became special or developed supernatural powers, but because I learned to operate from the quantum field where these impossibilities are actually the natural order of things. If you're resonating with this, if something inside you is recognizing this truth, then you're ready to understand the exact mechanism behind this transformation. Subscribe to this frequency because what comes next will revolutionize your relationship with reality itself. What the experts don't tell you about consciousness is that there's a fundamental difference between mental certainty and embodied certainty. And this difference is what separates those who can access the quantum shift from those who remain trapped, trying to manipulate reality through thought. When you try to use the observer effect, you're operating from mental certainty. You think about what you want to observe, you visualize the desired outcome, you focus your attention on specific possibilities. But there's still a separation between you and what you're trying to manifest. There's still an I trying to affect something out there. You're still operating from the paradigm of duality, observer and observed as separate entities. Mental certainty is when your mind believes something should be true, but your entire system, your emotions, your nervous system, your energetic field, is still operating from the old pattern. It's like trying to tune into a radio station by thinking about the frequency while your receiver is still calibrated to a completely different bandwidth. The quantum shift operates from embodied certainty. This isn't a thought about a possibility. It's the complete embodiment of that possibility. It's when the distance between observer and observed collapses entirely, and you become the very reality you were trying to create. Your entire system, mental, emotional, energetic, even cellular, shifts to match the frequency of your intended reality. The difference is that in mental certainty, you're still operating from an identity that doesn't have and needs to create. In embodied certainty, you're operating from an identity that already is what seemed to need creating. And this shift in identity is what activates the quantum shift. Think of it this way: when you're dreaming, you don't observe the dream happening. You are the dream happening. There's no separation between your consciousness and the dream experience. The dream emerges naturally as an expression of your consciousness. The quantum shift is when you learn to apply this same non-separation to waking reality. But here's what's truly shocking. The quantum consciousness you need to access, this already exists within you. It always has. It's not something you need to develop or earn or become worthy of. The problem is that you've been conditioned to operate from Newtonian consciousness, where there's a separate you trying to affect a world out there. Quantum consciousness doesn't need to be developed. It needs to be recognized. It needs to be validated. It needs to be embodied as your primary identity, instead of being treated as a special state you occasionally access during meditation or peak experiences. And when this happens, you stop trying to use the observer effect to manifest things in your life. You realize that your very existence is the effect, that your conscious presence doesn't observe reality. It originates reality moment by moment through the quantum field of pure potentiality. This recognition changes everything because you're no longer trying to influence reality from outside of it. You recognize yourself as the very source from which reality emerges, not your personality, not your ego, not your individual self, but the consciousness that is expressing as your individual experience while simultaneously expressing as all experience everywhere. The quantum shift is happening right now, at this moment in planetary history. And there are specific signs that indicate whether you're aligned with this transformation or still operating from obsolete patterns. These signs aren't metaphors or wishful thinking. They're measurable indicators of a consciousness upgrade that's occurring on both individual and collective levels. First sign: your physical body is undergoing subtle but noticeable changes. You might be sleeping less, but waking up more rested, as if your consciousness is learning to recharge more efficiently. Your intuition about foods is shifting. You're naturally moving away from things that lower your vibration and feeling drawn to whatever elevates your frequency. Your nervous system is recalibrating to process more subtle information, which might manifest as increased sensitivity to environments, energies, or even electromagnetic fields. Some of you are experiencing changes in your relationship with technology. Devices might malfunction around you when you're in certain emotional states. Electronics might turn on or off in your presence. This isn't imagination. It's your expanding electromagnetic field interacting with electronic systems. Your consciousness is literally becoming more electromagnetic as it expands into quantum frequencies. Second sign: your relationships are reorganizing naturally without you trying to change them. People who operate on frequencies incompatible with your new state are organically exiting your life. This isn't happening through conflict or drama. They're simply becoming less relevant, less interesting, less necessary. Simultaneously, individuals who resonate with your expansion are appearing synchronistically, often in ways that seem impossible or magical. You're also noticing that conversations with certain people leave you feeling drained, while conversations with others energize you for hours. This is because you're becoming more sensitive to frequency matches and mismatches. Your energy field is learning to recognize which interactions support your expansion and which ones drain your vital force. Third sign: you're receiving spontaneous insights about the nature of reality that didn't come from books, teachers, or external sources. Complete understandings are downloading directly into your awareness, arriving as packages of knowledge that feel both entirely new and completely familiar. This happens because your consciousness is accessing the quantum information field directly, without needing intellectual mediation. These downloads often come during mundane activities: washing dishes, driving, walking. Your rational mind isn't engaged, which allows direct access to universal intelligence. You might suddenly understand complex spiritual or scientific concepts without having studied them, or receive creative solutions to problems you weren't even consciously working on. Fourth sign: linear time is beginning to feel artificial and constraining. You're experiencing moments where past and future feel equally present, where you can sense multiple timelines existing simultaneously. This isn't dissociation or mental illness. It's your consciousness expanding beyond three-dimensional time constraints into quantum temporality. You might find yourself knowing things about people's past or future without them telling you, or experiencing precognitive dreams that prove accurate, or having the strange sensation that you've already lived through current events in some other timeline or dimension. And here's the most important recognition: the waiting season is over. For years, maybe decades, you've had the sensation of preparing for something, of developing capacities you didn't know how to use, of accumulating experiences that would make sense at the right moment, of being in training for a mission you couldn't quite define. That time has arrived. The quantum shift isn't something that will happen in the future. It's emerging through you right now, in this moment, as you process this information. Every breath is integrating new layers of potential. Every heartbeat is synchronizing your biology with cosmic frequencies that are flooding the planet. You can feel the urgency, can't you? Not a neurotic urgency based on fear or scarcity, but an organic urgency arising from deep knowing. Something within you recognizes that it's time to step into the next phase of your evolution. Time to stop preparing and start embodying. Time to stop learning about consciousness and start being consciousness in action. This urgency is real, because what you do with this information in the coming weeks will determine whether you surf the wave of this global transformation or remain trapped in patterns that are becoming obsolete. The universe is offering an opportunity for consciousness upgrade that doesn't occur frequently in human history. What you want wants you back, but not in the way you imagine. Not as an exchange where you do something and receive something in return. Not as a reward for being good or spiritual or positive enough, but as a natural alignment between your expanded essence and the possibilities that are congruent with that essence. The difference between alignment and attraction is absolutely crucial to understand. In attraction, you're trying to pull something into your current reality framework. You're operating from the assumption that you are here and what you want is there. And you need to somehow bridge that gap through effort, technique, or spiritual practice. But in alignment, you're becoming the very vibration of what you desire. And then it manifests naturally as an expression of your new identity. There's no effort because there's no gap to bridge. There's no waiting because there's no time delay between being something and experiencing it. There's no uncertainty because you're not trying to get something. You're expressing what you already are. Think of a tuning fork. When you strike a 440 Hz tuning fork, it doesn't attract other instruments to play that note. It simply vibrates at its natural frequency, and any other instrument in resonance automatically begins vibrating at the same frequency. Alignment works exactly like this. You become the frequency, and everything matching that frequency appears in your experience. But here's what will transform everything. The quantum shift isn't about aligning your personality with your desires. It's about aligning your entire identity with the version of you that already possesses what you desire. It's about embodying the timeline where that possibility is already your present reality. And this is only possible when you understand that all versions of you exist simultaneously in the quantum field. The version that doesn't have what you want, the version that already has it, the version that never wanted it in the first place, all exist as equally valid potentials in the space of infinite possibility. Most people think manifestation is about creating something new, but it's actually about selecting which already existing possibility you're going to experience. The quantum field contains every possible version of your life simultaneously. The quantum shift is the moment you stop trying to create a new version and start consciously choosing which version to embody. This selection doesn't happen through visualization or intention or any mental process. It happens through a complete identity shift at the quantum level. You literally become a different person, not by changing your personality, but by recognizing which aspects of infinite consciousness you're going to express through this human form. When this happens, what you previously called manifestation becomes effortless expression. You're not trying to create anything because you're simply being who you are, and your external reality naturally organizes itself to match your internal frequency. It's like a flower blooming. It's not trying to become beautiful or fragrant. It's simply expressing its nature, and beauty and fragrance are natural byproducts. In the next section, I'm going to show you exactly how to make this quantum selection consciously. How to access the identity that exists beyond the limitations of your conditioned personality. How to embody the timeline that represents your highest potential in this moment. But first, I need you to make an energetic declaration in the comments. I need you to anchor this energy through a specific commitment that will activate the quantum field around this information and connect you with others who are undergoing this same transformation. When you fully embody the quantum shift, capabilities that seemed superhuman become your new baseline. Not as skills you developed through practice, but as natural aspects of your expanded identity that were dormant and are now online, active, integrated into your everyday experience. First, your perception of time becomes fluid and multidimensional. You begin operating from multiple timelines simultaneously, which means you can access information from probable futures, integrate wisdom from past versions of yourself, and make decisions from a perspective that transcends linear cause and effect. This isn't psychic ability. It's quantum awareness recognizing that all time exists in the eternal now. You'll find yourself knowing exactly when to act and when to wait, not through analysis, but through direct knowing. You'll call people exactly when they need to hear from you. You'll arrive places precisely when something important is happening. This timing becomes so consistent that people around you start noticing and commenting on your uncanny sense of perfect timing. Second, your internal navigation system becomes virtually infallible. You simply know which choices are aligned with your highest timeline without needing to analyze pros and cons or weigh options mentally. Your intuition becomes so precise that people around you begin seeking you out for guidance, often without understanding why they trust your insight so completely. This knowing doesn't come through thoughts or mental processes. It arrives as a complete package of understanding that includes not just what to do, but why it's aligned, what the consequences will be, and how it fits into the larger pattern of your evolution. You become a living example of what it means to be guided by higher intelligence. Third, the observer effect begins operating through you automatically, without conscious effort or intention. Situations reorganize in your presence. People shift into better moods when you enter environments. Opportunities appear from nowhere shortly after you think about them. Traffic lights turn green as you approach. Parking spaces open up exactly where you need them. This happens because you're no longer trying to affect reality. You've become a point of coherence through which reality organizes itself naturally. Your presence creates a field of possibility that allows synchronicities to manifest effortlessly. You become a walking demonstration of quantum principles in action. Fourth, your biology optimizes itself for higher performance. Your physical body begins operating with dramatically increased efficiency. You need less sleep but have more energy. Your ability to process stress increases exponentially. Your immune system strengthens. Your mental clarity and focus become laser sharp. This occurs because you're operating from quantum coherence, which is the natural state of perfect health and optimal function. When your consciousness is aligned, your biology automatically aligns with it. Your cells begin vibrating at frequencies that promote healing, regeneration, and peak performance. Fifth, you develop what can only be described as reality fluidity. You can consciously shift between different probability streams, selecting which version of events you want to experience. This might sound impossible, but you'll discover you can influence outcomes simply through your presence and the frequency you embody. People will start describing you as lucky or saying things like, "Everything just works out for you." But you'll understand that luck has nothing to do with it. You're simply operating from a level of consciousness where positive outcomes are the natural order of things. And here's the most extraordinary part. These transformations are already beginning. Right now, as you process this information, as you feel this resonance building, as you sense something fundamental shifting in the quality of your consciousness, your nervous system is recalibrating. Neural circuits that were dormant are activating. Thought patterns that kept you trapped in limited realities are dissolving. You can feel it, can't you? That subtle but unmistakable sensation that something essential is changing in your awareness. Like a new dimension of potential is coming online. This isn't suggestion or placebo effect. This is the quantum shift beginning to manifest through your conscious recognition of it. We've arrived at the core of the revelation. The quantum shift you're experiencing isn't about developing new abilities or learning advanced techniques. It's about accessing a state of being that already exists within you. Quantum coherence. This is the hidden key that makes the observer effect obsolete, because you're no longer observing reality from outside it, you're expressing reality from within it. Coherence is when every aspect of your consciousness is vibrating in perfect harmony, when there's no conflict between what you think, what you feel, what you believe, and who you are at the deepest levels. It's a state of complete internal alignment that creates a field of pure potential around you, through which reality organizes itself according to your authentic expression. But here's what most people don't understand. You cannot fake coherence. You cannot think your way into this state. You cannot use techniques or methods to manipulate yourself into genuine coherence. Any attempt to control or force the process creates incoherence, which is exactly the opposite of what you're trying to achieve. True coherence emerges when you finally stop trying to be someone different and fully accept who you already are, including all the aspects you thought needed to be fixed, improved, or healed. It's a state of radical self-acceptance that paradoxically allows for infinite expansion because you're no longer using energy to resist any part of yourself. When you operate from genuine coherence, you're not trying to observe specific outcomes in reality. You're simply being yourself so completely, so authentically, that reality naturally organizes itself around your authentic expression. You become a creative force not because you're forcing anything, but because you're allowing your true nature to express without resistance. This is how you embody your highest timeline, not by trying to become someone else, but by becoming more fully yourself than you ever thought possible. Not by adding things to who you are, but by removing everything that isn't authentically you. The quantum shift is actually a return to your natural state, stripped of all conditioning and limitation. And when this happens, the observer effect becomes irrelevant. You're no longer a separate observer looking at an external reality. You become a seamless expression of universal consciousness, experiencing itself through your unique perspective. There's no separation between you and what you're experiencing. There's only one unified field of awareness expressing as infinite possibility. The quantum shift is when you transition from thinking you are someone who has consciousness to recognizing that you are consciousness having a human experience. And consciousness doesn't observe reality. Consciousness is reality, expressing as temporary forms and experiences. This recognition doesn't happen gradually through spiritual practice or personal development. It's a sudden quantum leap where everything shifts instantaneously. One moment you're operating from separation, believing yourself to be a small, limited individual trying to affect a big, powerful universe. The next moment you realize that separation never actually existed. It was only a perception based on limited identification with temporary forms. But the most profound recognition is this. You are not just experiencing this shift individually. You are part of a massive network of consciousness that is awakening to its true nature simultaneously across the planet. Every time you choose to operate from quantum coherence instead of conditioned limitation, you send ripples through the morphic field that make it easier for others to access the same state. You are literally helping to birth a new species of human consciousness. Every moment you embody your quantum nature instead of your conditioned personality, you're contributing to the collective evolution of human potential. You're becoming an active participant in the most significant transformation in human history. Your transformation isn't just about you. It's part of a massive shift happening at the planetary level. And you've been called to embody this expanded state, not only for your personal evolution, but because your coherence contributes to the collective awakening of human consciousness on Earth. Every time you choose to operate from quantum coherence instead of conditioned limitation, every time you select your highest timeline instead of defaulting to old patterns, every time you embody your authentic frequency instead of trying to fit into someone else's expectations, you send ripples through the morphic field that surrounds our planet. These ripples make it easier for others to access the same expanded states. You become an anchor point for higher frequencies in the planetary field. A living example of what's possible when human consciousness fully awakens to its true nature. Your very existence becomes a transmission that awakens others to their own quantum potential. This is why you felt called to watch this video. This is why certain experiences have been preparing you for this moment of recognition. You are part of a global network of individuals who are embodying the next stage of human evolution. Each of you who awakens creates a domino effect that accelerates the process for countless others. But remember, you cannot force this awakening in other people. You cannot convince anyone through arguments or explanations, or even by sharing videos like this one. You can only embody it so completely that your presence becomes an invitation for others to remember who they truly are. When you operate from genuine quantum coherence, when you're fully aligned with your authentic frequency, you become a living transmission. People feel something different in your energy field. They sense a quality of presence that reminds them of something they've forgotten about themselves. They begin asking questions not about what you know, but about how you be. Your transformation becomes a mirror for others to recognize their own potential, not through what you say or teach, but through the frequency you broadcast simply by being authentic. This is the most powerful form of service, living so authentically that you give others permission to do the same. Share this understanding with those who are ready, but not by trying to convert or convince. Share it by living from such an authentic place that people naturally become curious about how you navigate life with such ease, grace, and synchronicity. Let your transformation speak for itself. Let your coherence be the teaching. The universe is orchestrating a massive upgrade in human consciousness, and you have been selected to be among the first wave of this transformation. Not because you're special compared to others, but because you're willing to release identification with limitation and embrace your infinite nature. You're willing to let go of who you thought you were to discover who you actually are. This is your cosmic role. To demonstrate through your lived experience that transcendence is not only possible, but is actually the natural state of human consciousness when it's no longer constrained by conditioned beliefs about separation and limitation. You're here to prove that quantum consciousness isn't a rare gift given to special people. It's the birthright of every human being who's ready to claim it. Your presence on this planet at this time is not accidental. You incarnated specifically to be part of this consciousness revolution. Every experience you've had, every challenge you've overcome, every moment of awakening you've experienced has been preparing you for this role. You are a pioneer of human consciousness, exploring territories that will become mainstream in the coming decades. But the window for this transformation is not infinite. The cosmic conditions that make this level of consciousness upgrade possible are aligned now, in this particular moment in history. The frequencies flooding the planet, the planetary alignments, the collective readiness, all of these factors are creating a unique opportunity that may not be available in quite the same way again. If you've made it this far, then you've already initiated the quantum shift. The fact that you've absorbed this information, that you've allowed these frequencies to penetrate your consciousness, that you've felt the resonance building throughout this entire experience. This means you're ready for the next level of activation. But integration requires energetic commitment. Knowledge without application remains simply intellectual entertainment. The difference between those who transform and those who collect information is the willingness to make a quantum commitment to embodying what they've learned. In the next video that's appearing on your screen right now, I'm going to show you exactly how to maintain this state of quantum coherence in the midst of daily life challenges. How to navigate relationships, work responsibilities, and practical concerns from this expanded awareness without losing your center or reverting to old patterns. You'll discover the specific practices that anchor quantum consciousness in your nervous system. The moment-by-moment choices that keep you aligned with your highest timeline, even when everything around you seems chaotic or challenging. The way to become so stable in your quantum identity that external circumstances can no longer knock you off course. But before you continue, I need you to make an energetic commitment that will lock in everything you've received today. In the comments below, write just one word: embodied. This single word is a quantum activation code that will anchor this energy in your system and connect you with the network of others who are making this same commitment. When you write embodied, you're declaring to the universe that you're ready to stop playing small, that you're ready to embody your highest timeline regardless of what circumstances look like externally, that you're committed to operating from coherence even when everything around you seems designed to pull you back into limitation. This isn't just a comment, it's a cosmic contract. It's your conscious choice to step into your role as a pioneer of human consciousness. It's your agreement to let go of who you thought you were and become who you actually are. It's your commitment to the quantum shift that's already happening within you. The videos appearing on your screen now are not random suggestions generated by an algorithm. They are quantum reflections, precise mirrors of exactly what you need to hear next in your journey. This is how quantum reflex works. The content you encounter is never coincidental. It's always a perfect reflection of where you are and what you need to evolve further. These videos are quantum breadcrumbs leading you deeper into your own transformation. Each one contains frequencies and information that will activate new layers of your potential. Each one is designed to meet you exactly where you are and take you exactly where you need to go next. Subscribe to this frequency if you want to continue receiving these quantum downloads. But only subscribe if you're genuinely committed to applying this understanding. These aren't entertainment videos to consume passively. They are activations designed to transform you at a cellular level, to rewire your nervous system for quantum consciousness, to anchor you permanently in your expanded identity. And remember, every video you watch with full presence, every insight you integrate completely, every moment you choose coherence over confusion, you are contributing to a massive transformation that extends far beyond your individual life. You are helping to birth a new reality where quantum consciousness becomes the norm rather than the exception. Your quantum transformation is just beginning, and what's coming next will revolutionize everything you thought you knew about what's possible for human consciousness. You are about to discover capabilities you didn't know you had, access realities you didn't know existed, and embody a version of yourself that will seem impossible from your current perspective. Hit that next video now, and let's continue this journey together. Your new reality is waiting, and every moment you delay is a moment longer before you step into the extraordinary life that's already yours. Welcome to your quantum awakening. Welcome to who you've always been beneath the layers of conditioning and limitation. The universe has been waiting for you to remember. Now is the time. Now is your moment. Now is when everything changes.